G'day, guys. This is on the Nazi sort of resolution that was actually put at the UN. It's basically the resolution is item 66A, draft resolution AC3/77 L.5. It goes revised and amended. Combating glorification of Nazism, neo-Nazism, and other practices that contribute to fueling contemporary forms of, it's a good resolution, against the extremist groups. I mean, I know Germany has on their statute books an anti-Nazi constitution, and this is sort of like a general sort of agreement, a global agreement to sort of condemn that sort of thinking and all that. Now, I know that the Russians put that there for obvious reasons as a critique against the Ukrainian forces that have integrated the Azov Brigade, which is an element, a neo-Nazi element in its ranks in that regard. But at the same time, it's a legitimate criticism of such. The West should not be involved in these sort of groups. They could have quite easily told Zelensky and quite easily told the forces, you need to get rid of this group. This is unacceptable. We can't support such groups. You need to disband it. You're the government. You can disband it. But we know that's just bullshit. Just take a look at what's happening. They're offering $25,000 to any Al-Qaeda operative that wants to go and fight in the Ukraine. And that's off the, US budget, since the 9/11. The piece of legislation which provides them, which is at section 333, and the other section, which is 127E, that provides them with the ability to finance these groups against terrorism. But it's just a carte blanche, slush fund to be able to finance any lunatic in the world that they can use against their opponents. That's really what it is. What's new? I mean, let's not forget Al-Qaeda, all these groups, these terrorist groups that boomeranged on the United States and many of Western Europe, and many innocent people in Europe and North America died at the hands of these extremists. Who were they actually set up by? The CIA, and they were financed by Uncle Sam. Remember back in the 80s, when they were financing these groups against the Soviets? That's exactly the groups that basically then turned on the West. They found the most extremist elements, trained them and armed them to the teeth, and then, once they finished with the Russians, they thought, they'll settle down and just go into retirement. What a load of bullshit. These people have got no idea. They create one mess after another, and it's all about divide and rule and all about what you can do. And then they'll waste billions of dollars making the military-industrial complex very wealthy by creating, a new enemy, which we need to use drones to kill. And then you've got the Nobel Prize winner for the Nobel Peace Prize, Barack Obama, basically, looking after his mates in the military-industrial complex very peacefully, making sure that their orders for killer drones and many other things are basically, those profits are kept high and good. That's really what it is. It's all about money, and destruction of people outside. Sometimes it boomerangs back at you, but most of these people are insulated. It's the common people that basically will bear the brunt of any blowback, as always. It won't be the people at the top. We know, it's quite obvious. But I actually came across this guy's video. He's an Indian guy. I'll put a link in the actual description, but he actually gives the details, because I wasn't able to find exactly, because I knew about the vote that had actually happened, but I tried to look through the UN website and I couldn't find anything. Surprise, surprise. Really hard to find certain things, but I was able to find the voting against the Russia. That was prominent. It was also prominent in the Google searches and all that. So it was really hard to actually find this material. So I knew about it, but I didn't actually know which countries voted in one direction or another. It was quite interesting, a bit of an eye-opener to see all these so-called democratic countries supporting Nazism. Yes, and then they virtual signal about human rights and being good global citizens and all this sort of stuff. You realize, the hypocrisy and the bullshit never ends with these people. They'll vote for Jack the Ripper if it basically serves their interests. That's how bad they are. It's about 105 countries in favor, 52 against. Surprise, surprise. The US would be in that group. And then there was about 15 countries that abstained. That means did not vote in favor or against the resolution. Basically opted out. And it's probably for political reasons. They didn't want to upset certain countries like the US, but they didn't want to vote for, against it either. So they sort of, tried to grab the middle ground, which I just see as a cop-out, basically. Yeah, anyway, let's take a look at the countries. Obviously, Afghanistan didn't bother voting. They just saw it as a not. They didn't even turn up. So that's why you don't see any vote against them, because they didn't take any position. They just probably didn't even turn up for the vote. Then you've got Albania. Obviously, Albania is, would have been pressured by other countries. In particular, Italy's got a lot of influence over them, so there would have been a bit of pressure from there, plus the US. Andorra. See, Spain, voted against the resolution with the US. Obviously, Andorra is between France and Spain. It's a little sort of country, and usually they vote in the same direction. They don't want to upset their neighbours, sort of thing. So it's sort of not really. They never vote unless it really affects them directly against or for something. In most cases, they sort of follow suit. So I don't see that as a really important vote from them. Obviously, Angola voted against it. Antigua Barbuda basically abstained. Argentina voted for the resolution. Armenia voted for the resolution. Oh, great democracy, Australia, my own country, voted against the resolution. Yes. Oh, isn't it great? All these democratic people in Australia, within the Labor Party, great, and the Liberal Party, great Democrats, will vote in that direction. Austria, well, Adolf Hitler did come from that place, so it doesn't surprise me there. Azerbaijan, Bahamas, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Barbados, Belarus voted for the resolution. Oh, another democracy, Belgium. Obviously, they forget that the atrocities that the Nazis did in their country. It's old news. That was only our grandparents and all that suffered, and our parents. Really? And then an ex-British colony, Belize, voted for the resolution. Good for them. Bhutan voted for it. Bolivia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, we know why they voted, because they want to be friendly to the Americans. They get money from the Americans. That's the only reason they voted against it, not because they support that view. It's just all for the US dollar. Botswana, good for them. Brazil, they did the right thing as well. Brunei, good for them. They did the right thing. Bulgaria, very surprising, but they did get a change in government recently, care of the US, because the previous government was a bit too close to the Russians. It was a bit of a problem at the time for the Americans. So it doesn't surprise me, you know, they didn't turn up. Gabon, Cambodia voted for the resolution. Cameroon, good for them. That's another country that the US is intervening in. Obviously, they're a great US ally. That's why they're intervening. Maybe they didn't vote right. Canada, oh, what a great democracy that Canada is. So woke, so left, and so anti-racist, and they had to vote for the Nazis. But as I said, it always these extremists, it's the other side of the coin, very much the same. Mr. Authoritarian, left-wing authoritarian. What's the difference between left and right authoritarian? It's only in the name, isn't it? It's not what you say, it's what you do that defines you as a person and your ideology. Remember that. People can say all sorts of things, but it's their actions that speak louder than words always. And we know Trudeau is an authoritarian thug, basically. So I'm not surprised that he voted for the Nazis. Central African Republic, good for them. They did the right thing. Chad, Chile, China, Colombia, they did the right thing. Costa Rica, Cote d'Ivoire, they did the right thing. Congo, well, we know they're a US protectorate, so it didn't surprise me that they voted that way. Abstained, not to upset the Americans. Cuba did the right thing. Oh, Croatia, that didn't surprise me. The Czech Republic, that didn't surprise me. But Cyprus, I mean, guys, really? Should be ashamed of yourselves. Just because Athens told you to. Well, we know Athens is sold to the US a long time ago. Really, you guys? After the Turks have invaded and did all sorts of things and the Americans allowed it, you vote with the Americans? For God's sake, guys, what is wrong with you? The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Denmark, another paradise of democracy. Djibouti did the right thing. Dominican Republic, Ecuador and Egypt, obviously for political reasons. All these countries do get US assistance money-wise. So, yeah, understandable not to upset Uncle Sam. They voted that way. El Salvador did the right thing. Equatorial Guyana did the right thing. Eritrea did the right thing. Estonia does not surprise me. They'll do anything the Americans tell them. Ethiopia did the right thing. Fiji did the right thing. Finland. Really, guys? Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? France, I mean, really? Galatry, fraternity, and all this sort of stuff. Freedom, democracy, we've had the French pushing this down our throats. You vote for the Nazis when they destroyed your country. God almighty, what is wrong with you guys? Gabon, Georgia, Germany, really? Really? You guys, Germany, after you killed 6 million Jews and slaughtered a whole lot of others, you've got a checkered history and you go and vote with the Americans? For God's sake, what is wrong with you guys? Ghana, good for them. Greece, absolutely, you little American puppets. That's all I can say about Greece. I'm a citizen of that country as well. I'm ashamed of Australia and Greece. You both disgust me. You should be ashamed of yourselves after, the amount of death that happened in Greece under Nazi occupation. How many people died? Something like up to 600,000. There was probably about 300,000 of them that died from starvation, and the other ones died in the war and executions. God almighty. And you vote against this resolution. You should be ashamed of yourselves completely. Guatemala, good for them. Guyana, Bissau, Guyana, Haiti, good for them. Even an American puppet like Haiti actually votes for the resolution. Probably they were too scared that if they didn't vote that way, their own population would lynch them. Honduras, good for them. Hungary, doesn't surprise me. Iceland, really, guys? Another great bastion of democracy. India, good for them. They did the right thing. And he's an Indian as well. He's proud of the way his country voted. Indonesia, they did good, very good. Indonesia, something Australia could learn from. Iraq did the right thing. The Iranians didn't even attend. Bit of shame. Ireland, I mean, the Irish, what is wrong with you fuckers up there? Really? Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? Well, I expected Israel to vote for the resolution. I'm not surprised that the Israelis would have given the finger to the Americans and definitely voted for this resolution. There's not a resolution endorsement of Russia or a resolution. This is an anti-Nazi resolution. This should have been voted in by everyone. You can criticize separately Russia's behavior and stuff like that, but this should have been, we shouldn't be supporting these nasties. But you know what? America wants to use these nasties in future wars. That's why. That's why they took a whole lot of groups. They had the Azov group on their prohibitive list. They actually removed them from that. I wonder why. Nuland, she had something to do with it as well. And so did Biden. Oh, great supporters of freedom and democracy, both of them. Bunch of imperialist, little manipulative little hacks is what they are of the deep state. Italy should be ashamed of itself. Jamaica did the right thing. Japan should also be ashamed of itself, especially its not so glorious past. You don't vote this way, Japan. What is wrong with you? Did you ask your population? Or did you just kowtow to the Americans? Jordan did the right thing. Kazakhstan did the right thing. Kenya did the right thing. Kiribati did the wrong thing. Kuwait did the right thing. Kyrgyzstan did the right thing. Laos did the right thing. Latvia, doesn't surprise me. Another basically little protectorate, US protectorate. Lebanon did the right thing. Lesotho did the right thing. Liberia, you guys are crazy. Really? Descendant of American slaves, and you vote with the Americans, for pro-Nazism? I mean, really? God almighty. You need to get your heads examined. Even Libya voted for the resolution, and that country's in a mess. Liechtenstein, oh yeah, the banker's paradise. Doesn't surprise me. They're all Nazis there. Probably got Nazi gold as well. That place should be bulldozed down. Lithuania, doesn't surprise me. Luxembourg, oh God, the woke latte group votes for the Nazis. God. Why does it not surprise me? They'll vote anything that Berlin tells them to do. Madagascar, good for you guys. Malawi, bravo. Malaysia, bravo. Maldives, bravo. Mali, really, guys? Yeah. Oh, that's right. America's there involved as well. Cameroon, Mali. Yeah, that's right. They were told what to do. Malta, you guys need to get your heads examined as well. Marshall Islands, well, another American-controlled stooge government. They'll do what they're told. Mauritania, good for you guys. Mauritius, good for you. Mexico stayed out of it. Disappointing. Micronesia, yep, another American little puppet. Monaco, obviously, I think they collaborated with the Nazis anyway in the Second World War. Mongolia did the right thing. Montenegro, yeah, well, we know they got big debts to China and they need American assistance. That's why they voted that way. Oops. Mozambique did the right thing. Myanmar abstained. Bit disappointing. Namibia did the right thing. Nauru did the right thing. Nepal did the right thing. The Netherlands, you guys, very disappointing. New Zealand, oh, God. Jacinda, oh, that's right. I always forget. She says she's left. I wish she'd leave. Yes. It doesn't surprise me that that cow would vote for the Nazis. She's an authoritarian biatch. Anyway, Nicaragua did the right thing. Niger did the right thing. Nigeria did the right thing. Firearm, that's what I still call them. They did the wrong thing. Again, money from the US. Norway, really? You got conquered by the Nazis and you vote for them? Are you insane, you people up there? Oh, that's right. You want a virtual signal to the rest of the world. You pump oil like this and gas like there's no tomorrow and virtual signal everyone else about how environmentally conscious you guys are and so woke and so against these sort of things, very democratic and all that, and you vote for the Nazis. Oh, God, doesn't surprise me. It's all the virtual signaling people out there, all the great democratic lovers of democracy and freedom that are voting for, yeah, funny as, not at all. Oman did the right thing. Pakistan did the right thing. Palau abstained. Panama abstained. Those sort of countries are more for political reasons, not to upset the US. Papua New Guinea, well, they'll vote anyway the Australians tell them. They're literally an Australian protectorate. Let's just be honest about it. They're an Australian puppet. They'll do whatever they're told. So I don't even classify that as a legitimate vote because I know really well, and I know people that actually go and work for the government over there in Papua New Guinea. So I know very well what the amount of control that the Australian government has over them. So, yeah, if they had a bit more independence, they'd probably do a better job for their own people. But with Australian interference telling them what they can spend things on, what they can do and all that, just creates chaos in terms of managing internal affairs. You can't micromanage another country from a distance because countries are dynamic things. They're always in flux and change and all that. People on the ground understand those things much better than people in Canberra. That's why the country's a mess, thanks to Australia. Paraguay did the right thing. Peru did the right thing. Philippines did the right thing. Poland, really? You guys got bulldozed by the Nazis and you vote for them? Are you friggin' insane? Have you had your head examined? Really, guys? God almighty. You faced existential threats from the Russians and the Nazis, the Germans. and you basically vote for the Nazis? God almighty. Should be ashamed of yourselves. Portugal, really? Another bastion of democracy. But whatever. Qatar did the right thing. Republic of Korea opted out. Again, not to upset the Americans. Republic of Moldova, well, we know why they're anti-Russian. That's why. Romania, again, the same reason. The Russian Federation, obviously, they put it up, so they voted for it. Rwanda, St. Kitts Nevis, which is in the Caribbean, they voted for it. And the St. Vincent Grenadier or something like that it's called, they voted for it. Good. Samoa opted out. San Marino, which is a little micro state inside Italy, they voted with the Italians. Obviously, they do what they're told. Saudi Arabia voted the right way. Good for them. Senegal voted the right way. Serbia opted out. Really? You guys are technically, yeah, I mean, obviously, they're not as pro-Russian as people think. Countries vote strangely. Sometimes they'll abstain or vote in a certain way, but they should do the right thing and not vote. That's what I'm going through every single country. I'm calling them out. That's why I'm doing it this way. So you can hear what your country voted for. So you know, and you can contact your government and say, why did you vote that way? And you should. And if you don't, you should be asking yourself, why aren't I voting? I'm calling my government, asking them, why did they vote that way? Anyway, Slovakia, Slovenia, more disappointments. Solomon Islands, good for them. There's not much of a government. Somalia, it's divided into segments, so they probably didn't even have an appearance. South Africa did the right thing. Spain, another disappointment. Sri Lanka did the right thing. Sudan did the right thing. Suriname did the right thing. Sweden, really, guys? Another bastion of democracy and freedom, and you voted for the Nazis? God almighty. Switzerland abstained. What a cop-out. Syrian Arab Republic did the right thing. Tajikistan did the right thing. Thailand did the right thing. Good for the Thais. You know, Timor-Leste did the right thing. Togo did the right thing. Tonga, another cop-out. Trinidad and Tobago did the right thing. Tunisia did the right thing. Turkmenistan did the right thing. Turkey abstained. Typical. They're always fence sitters for their two patrons, Russia and the US, who they can extract favors out of. Uganda did the right thing. The Ukraine, obviously, they've incorporated the Nazis into their regular military, so obviously they'd vote against it. United Arab Emirates did the right thing. The UK, another bastion of democracy. Well, another bastion of democracy. I think at the time they still had Boris the Clown, running the show, so it doesn't surprise you. Another great Democrat, freedom lover. Oh, God. United Republic of Tanzania, good for them. United States, the absolute pinnacle of democracy, freedom around the world, and virtual signaling everyone, you're all baddies, we're the best, you should be following us. And they vote for the Nazis. Great Democrats. Freedom fighters. What can one say? Let alone they probably have all those people on their books anyway, on the, now they bring Al Qaeda into the Ukraine. $25 a pop to go and kill Russians. Uruguay did the right thing. Uzbekistan did the right thing. Vanuatu and Venezuela didn't even get involved. I'm surprised. Usually Venezuela votes, they didn't even turn up. Very disappointing. Vietnam did the right thing. Yemen did the right thing. Zambia did the right thing. And Zimbabwe did the right thing. So there's 105 countries did the right thing. 52 countries that did the wrong thing. And a lot of them, the so-called democracies of the world and freedom fighters of the world. And 15 just copped out. Very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. You know, you've got basically there a large proportion of countries all up that didn't take a good positive stand, and that's 67 countries. But at least there was more countries. That's one positive thing. 105 countries that at least stood up for it and all that. What I'm disappointed is with the current Israeli government that basically didn't make much of an issue of it after the fact. Very poor on their part. After 6 million of their, people died at the hands of the Nazis, and they voted again for the resolution, but didn't criticize the countries that voted the other way. So again, for political reasons. But you know what? When you do that, it's like appeasement. We appeased the Nazis before the Second World War, and then we got mass atrocities and millions being butchered by them. Again, when you appease these nasties, you end up, a lot of good people end up dying. For me, this video was to call these people out. My relatives fought against these evil people in the Second World War. And the last thing we want to do is basically be financing and supporting these evil doers again. I'm unapologetic. These people should be basically dealt with. They don't believe in democracy and freedom or the rule of law. If you allow them to basically take power, they will basically lock everyone up, and the people that they don't like, they'll knock them off. These are criminal organizations. They've got no place in a civilized democratic society, any of these organizations. They don't give a shit about the democratic system and all that. Let's not forget, the Nazi Party in Germany actually failed. They lost in the last elections. Their support went down, not up. The way they got power was that a couple of far right, a couple of conservative groups and some other groups supported them in power because they wanted to hold on to power. They didn't want the Social Democrats getting it or anyone else. And they wanted to basically, and so they used him. They thought, oh, we can control him. Well, they couldn't. What he did was he burnt down the Reichstag, which was the parliament, and he blamed it on the communists, and then basically took power to declared martial law, and then imprisoned even those people on the conservative side that voted for him. He eliminated all of them. And he only had a third of the support in the population. 2/3 of the population did not support him. And that's important. And then out of fear, they didn't rise up against him. It was only after the war when they saw the atrocities, because they were pulled through the killing fields to be shown the atrocities that their countrymen had done. Only then did they realize how bad that they basically kept quiet. So when I see people, after all the atrocities that we've seen on this planet, keep quiet about these evil doers, I get really irate, angry with those countries, and in particular, Australia and Greece, which I'm a citizen of both those countries. It's inexcusable. You can basically oppose Russia. I've got no problems with that. But don't basically oppose resolutions like that. Because this resolution is a legitimate resolution. It's a resolution that says we will not stand by and accept these groups in a civilized society. because these groups are nasty. I mean, what are you going to do next? Let's say, oh yeah, let's permit cannibalism. Let's permit people that basically, rape people. Let the rapists out. Oh, that's right. In America, they've defunded the police. They've let rapists out, criminals, all sorts of people. It's business as usual. Certain other far leftist groups can burn down cities. You can do whatever you like. Probably the new approach. Anarchy and authoritarianism at the same time. Take your pick. What a crazy world we live in is all I can say. This is why I'm a centrist. I want a properly regulated, run society. I don't want sort of a mad world. In a mad world, nobody wins. It's us little people, the majority of us are not crazies, that get stomped over and severely get stomped over. That is why when I see governments that so-called tell us, virtual signal us about their democratic credentials and freedom-loving credentials, and then vote this way, they should be ashamed of themselves. You should have the same outrage that I have, and you should contact your representative and say, why did your government vote this way? You should be outraged about their behaviour. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. See yous.